Hey everyone, welcome to another Coach Mo Live. I am so excited and delighted to have a fantastic, wonderful client, Wendy. Nice to see you. So great to see you
Nice to see
smiling so
you.
good, so big. Wasn't that way when we met, was it?
No,
Yeah.
no, it wasn't.
Wendy has joined me to basically share her story of what she came through. And as Wendy knows from being in our 12-week kick-ass workshop and being a woman in the professional world, there's sometimes potholes and landmines that are a bit more prevalent in a woman's journey into being a leader, being an executive, or just working as a professional woman in the world. And if you're not familiar with my work, folks, I am the founder and creator of the Kick-Ass Career Workshop, where I help women just like Wendy move through a career that's not quite where they want it to be, bring their soul back alive, and land their dream job. And in Wendy's case, there's an interesting twist to what that dream job has been all about for her. And Wendy, I'll let you introduce yourself, and then I'll just sort of post it there for you, and we'll talk about what was going on when we first met. And again, welcome to the interview.
Okay,
Thanks.
thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yeah.
My name is Wendy Dawson. I am almost 55 years old, and I live in the state of South Carolina, and I'm a human resources professional and have been involved in a corporate HR setting for about a little over 10 years. I have almost 9 grandchildren and
Wow.
5, almost have 8.5 grandchildren, and am loving my life since I met Mo and her team and figured some things out that I didn't know before.
Yeah. You had an interesting career trajectory because you've had your own businesses in the past, um, and then you decided to migrate into the corporate world to be an HR leader. As a, I guess it was a career pivot that you decided to make a few years ago. And when you and I
Mhm.
first met, and we had the pleasure of doing the clarity call together, it's not always the case where I can talk to someone, but you and I met for the first time on that clarity call. What was going on for you at that point?
At that point, I had been with my current employer for about 3 years and was the vice president of human resources for that group and had employees over 3 states.
Hmm.
I had been in HR for, like I said, the corporate HR for about 10 years. Before that, my entire career, I was an entrepreneur.
Hmm.
And 2008 came along and made that a really difficult place to be. And so I made a decision to go into the corporate world and did that for quite a period of time. My heart has always been in entrepreneurialism. That's just kind of who I am.
Hmm.
Um, so when I decided to go into corporate HR, it was a challenge and a change, and I really enjoyed the challenge of it because what I found myself doing was really building departments and building teams and creating things that were not there and transforming cultures and things like that. Really enjoyed that. In March of 2022, actually, let's go back a little bit. Actually, over the past year and a half, I guess, when I was with my last company, I had been really noticing and experiencing a lot of sexism in the workplace, not so much from directly for me, but for my team
Yeah.
of HR professionals that were spread across this geographic footprint. And it just happened more and more and more. And I just noticed, well, this really is what I called it was an underlying current of
Yeah.
sexism.
Yeah.
And I was very vocal about it on behalf of my team.
Hmm.
And long story short, I really became very vocal about it. And then I made a formal complaint on behalf of myself and my team to the CEO on January the 14th. And on March the 8th, they terminated me.
Hmm.
So I was shocked, never been terminated before, always thought I was doing a great job.
Yeah.
But very quickly realized the reason that I was terminated, but it didn't make it any easier
Yeah.
to have that happen.
Right. Right. And so, you're talking about a topic that I think if we were to sort of like follow the headlines, we would think is past us. The whole Me Too thing. We got
No.
past that, right? Like women are not discriminated against or treated poorly in the workplace. Yet your experience is one of literally hundreds and hundreds that I hear on a monthly basis. And
Well,
if you're a guy out there, let's get in this together, okay? Because there is definitely sexism is still alive and well, and I'm not sure that every organization that has it knows that they have it. When you were sort of trying to advocate for yourself, and I know from working with you, you felt like you were doing the right thing, like the organization was going to be like, oh my goodness, let's solve this, right?
absolutely. I really felt like I worked for a CEO who was the person that he presented to be, a man of morality and integrity, and would certainly stand up for the underdog or the person who was being marginalized. I expected that from him because that's who he presented it to be. Looking back on it, there's a lot of things that happened within the company that probably changed his perspective, or not just his perspective, but didn't allow him to be on that side of the ball because the company was for sale and different things like that. But I expected that when I brought this to their attention that they would address it.
Yeah.
I thought it's just very natural for me to say, this is, as an HR person, that's what we're hired to do, is tell the truth. And that's what I was doing, was telling the truth. But it was being ignored and had been ignored for over a year and a half. And then the company was sold in December. And I had a meeting with the new owner in February and told him the very same thing. And he looked at me like I had three heads, like he had no idea what I was talking about. Yeah. And when I saw him, I thought, oh, this is not going to be good. So but from the time I met with the new owner to the time I was terminated was 3 weeks. I felt very confident, and still do, that it was because I was reporting a complaint on behalf of my team and the other women in the organization.
Yeah. It always breaks my heart when I hear these stories, and having traveled through corporate America myself, and having been, I don't want to use the word victim, but having been the victim of sexism and watching it, it is a painful situation that a lot of women are still experiencing. And having navigated that on the right side of the equation, so to speak, and then getting punched in the gut, where did that sort of send you?
It sent me a lot of different places. I was probably not as depressed, I suppose, as I thought I would be, but I was confused and I was angry because I was doing the right thing and I was doing what I was hired to do, which was exactly what I had done. So being the age that I am and knowing the career that I had, the next thing was, okay, I guess I move on and I go and get another, VP position or CHRO or something like that. And the more I looked at the job descriptions of the posts, the more I realized I was uncomfortable with it, and my heart wasn't happy. So I was really in a quandary or whatever, trying to figure out what was going to be next for me, because I just knew my heart didn't want to jump back in that. And of course I was afraid that I've been taught if I stand up for what I believe in, it doesn't turn out well. And that's just not who I am. Right. So I actually saw one of your posts on Facebook, and something you said in there, bring your soul to work. And I thought, well, I thought I was bringing my soul to work, which is why I'm in the mess that I'm in now, because I stood up for what I believed in. Yeah. But after you and I had the clarity call, I walked out of the bedroom where I had the call with you, and I looked at my husband and I said, I have to do this. This is my woman. She's in my life for right now for the reason that she's going to help me figure out what it is I need to do next. Yeah. And it was amazing from the minute you called me, an amazing journey. I would do it again and again and again.
Yeah. Well, I thank you. And I want to dive in a little bit so that folks who haven't been on the other side of that call, or on the other side of even, what I do, I'm sure it might look like to many people just another career coach. But as the secret sauce that I have came out of my cancer journey, and really getting to that deeper level within me that I had been holding back, that I didn't even know I was holding back. and then sort of getting beaten down all the time, sort of by this patriarchal workplace environment that's almost everywhere, you start doubting yourself. When you and I spoke on the clarity call, I was very passionate about helping you because I knew what you brought to the table and that you had been just pushed down way too far. And I know climbing out of that sometimes never happens. Like there are women who have been in your shoes and they've never been able to climb out of that situation. And as you know, like my team and I, we talk to women all day long who are beaten down. I just talked with a woman yesterday whose boss sweared at her and told her how stupid she was and hung up the phone on her. And that wasn't the first time.
Wow.
And so there's a lot of flawed human beings being leaders out there, and a lot of people sort of underneath them really, really being hurt as human beings. So the bringing your soul back to work, you felt, there is something inside of me that feels sort of broken. After we had that talk and you spoke to your husband and you got started, what was some of the things that you were like, wow, I didn't realize that? What were some of the things that you sort of came through on the journey, Wendy?
For me, it more than anything else, it certainly is a career coaching, and I've got all kinds of wonderful advice on that I never really had to have because I had been in my own career and I'd been an entrepreneur for so long. Yeah. There's certainly lots and lots of value in that. But for me, the most valuable piece was the soul journey, the spiritual journey that I started on. And having always been raised in the church, started to really think about the way I was thinking about myself and the way I was thinking about others. And I read a lot of the books on the on the recommended reading list and started to really open my soul and to think about, wow, how have I been living? I've been living in my mind in the way other people tell me I have to live.
Right.
And I just started discovering that that's just not who God wants me to be. I don't have to be the person who fits into the mold that I've been told I always was. And still to this day, I still do meditation every day. I still do the gratefuls and the brags, and I've even gotten more deeply into that. And my attitude has changed, my mentality. I feel positive. I feel empowered. And it's but without your program, I never would have thought to think like that. So it was really an awakening of my mind more than really just a career program for me.
Yeah. I remember while we were in the 12-week workshop together, coaching you one time when you went to an HR conference. And it was probably in the middle of the journey together. And you were at that conference, and it seemed to me, having witnessed you for 4 to 6 weeks prior to that all of a sudden you lit up and you realized that you did belong at a high level in your profession. Like it was like all of a sudden you like found your power. Do you remember that?
I did. And it's when I started listening to my intuition. I think for a long time, I think women have a very in-depth God-given intuition, but I also think that corporate environments that are so data-driven and so production-oriented, I think that what I call that, and I've always called that, is you manage the humanity out of the business. And I think that I had fallen for that. I was that data-driven person as well and understood that that's how you make business successful, but that's not how you make business successful. You make people successful, and they will make your business successful. So that's what at that conference, I remember the day that you're talking about, I sat down at the table and I started to think about going back into the corporate world. And I realized I had a physical, anxious reaction to that thought. And it occurred to me, oh my goodness, this is my body telling me something. That's the first time I've ever really thought like that. And that's what your team had taught me to do, was really listen to myself.
Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting how disconnected some of the more traditional ways that we're taught to live life can really pull us from. And as you now know, like our soul speaks to us through intuition, bodily feelings. Like it's a whisper, it's a soft voice, it's a soft guidance system. It's not a loud, robust thing. And all of our senses are picking up all this noise, and we tend to listen to the noise and lose that inner divine guidance system that is the truth and basically the only way we're going to be able to live life in a satisfied, happy way. I remember sort of challenging you as well about being an executive versus doing your own thing. And just, I want to just elaborate on that in case anyone's listening to this can understand. When you're going through job trauma, when you're not in your full power, it's not the time to start your own thing. You did so much work to come into your power, to really claim the lane that you wanted to be in, that's eventually what you decided to do, to do your own consulting and basically put your flag in the ground. How is it going for you?
Oh, it's going wonderfully. I'm happier than I've probably ever been in my career. I'm in a really great place in my life. Yeah. And what I did was realize that feeling, that negativity I felt about going into the corporate world, that was there for a reason. Yeah. At first, I thought it's just because I'm scared. It's just because I'm afraid that that'll happen again. Yeah. But the more I listened to it, the more I realized, no, it's not. So Coach Portia was great helping me think through all of those things. And at this point in my career, I could go probably and make more money than I've ever made before and probably have a position of authority and all of that, but it just didn't appeal to me. Mm-hmm. What I really wanted to do was help other people. And I decided one day I'm going to do my own business. And I just got on the phone and called all the contacts that I had for the last 10 years. And they were like, oh my God. And one of them actually said, I've been waiting for this phone call. I've been waiting for you to call me and tell me, because I knew that's what you needed to do. I was just waiting for you to figure that out. So it has been an amazing, wonderful process. And I cannot thank you and your team enough for just helping me to see it. I think it was always there. I just didn't know how to find it.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's a line from The Wizard of Oz when the good witch says that to Dorothy. Dorothy, you had it in you all along. But it takes like going down your own Yellow Brick Road to find it in many ways, doesn't it?
It does.
Because you're buying into the sort of storyline that the outside world has, and we don't get a chance to get in there. I mean, I know for me, when I went through my cancer journey, that's what caused me to find myself at a deeper level. Disruptions of whatever kind tend to bring us the opportunity to revisit or to visit for the first time in some cases, that deeper level of soul. What else has that inspired you to do and be in your life, other than start a wonderful HR consulting business and be thriving?
It has inspired me to think more about forgiveness and less about rules and more about humanity. Because when you're in the HR compliance world, you really live with that data and those rules.
Yeah.
And that's what I had become. And I found that through this process, I really see the humanity even more now in people than I did before. And I've even been able to move to a position where I've forgiven my CEO. And I look at him and I think, the guy that fired me, that's not the same guy that I went to work for 3 years before. There must be a reason that he had a change. And so it's just given me more insight to give people the benefit of the doubt and to just look at people and say they're doing the best that they can, whether they're making mistakes or not. They're still probably doing the best that they can.
Right, right.
So that's helped free me up too.
Yeah, it does. I mean, there's a saying in I don't know if it's in mental health or just sort of psychology that hurt people hurt people. And so when we're watching sort of like bad characters at work, deeply down, those folks are wounded and don't know how to handle what they're really feeling, which sort of leads the HR team and component in any company to sort of be the steward of the souls in the company.
Yeah, and it's a heavy burden, especially when people feel micromanaged or underappreciated, and they don't feel the freedom to express themselves or to be fully in their career, which is exactly where I was. So that makes me understand other people more for sure. Yeah,
yeah. I know you recently moved to a dream house as well, and sort of like living the vision board life, so to speak. You said it earlier in the call that you're 55. Did you ever
Hmm.
imagine yourself being this level of happy and satisfied and fulfilled in life?
No, and well, because we always hope that, but was hoping it wouldn't take until I'm 55 to realize that. But that's not the journey I've been down. My journey has been different
Hmm.
than everyone else's, but I'm so happy and peaceful now. I wouldn't go back and change anything. If I could have some insight then that I have now,
Yeah.
I probably would have done something differently. I would have learned differently along the way. But yeah, we just moved into our a lake house, which is one of the main things I put on my vision board, and my vision board is coming true. Just as sure as I'm putting it out in the universe, it's
Yeah.
coming back to me, like we
Yeah.
studied.
Yeah.
And I've had an amazing 2022. I cannot wait to see what 2023 brings.
So good. That's so good. If you were to speak to the Wendy who was sort of suffering by not being listened to, by not being paid attention to when she was bringing up sexism, what would the wiser, more soulful version of you say to her?
I would say keep doing what your soul tells you is right, and don't sit on it too long. If Don't keep waiting for someone to be the person they said that they were.
Mm.
Their behavior is going to tell you who they are.
Hmm.
And if that's not the place for you, that behavior is not going to change. So really, it's up to you to decide whether you're going to take that in your own hands and move out, or whether you're going to live with it. That's the two
Yeah.
choices you have. You can move on, or you can deal with it. But if I had to say it to somebody in my position, is when people show you who they are, believe it,
Yeah.
and then get out of the way. Get out of the way.
Yeah.
Go do something that fulfills you, that means something to the world, rather than waiting around for something to happen that's probably not going to happen.
Yeah. Yeah. True words for sure. When you entered the journey with us on the 12-week kick-ass workshop, perhaps there was a little fear. Perhaps there was a little like, is this really going to work for me? Is this going to be everything they say it is? What did you learn in going through the process? Not just about yourself, but maybe about trusting other people to help you.
Oh, without a doubt, I trusted from the very beginning, because of the conversation that you and I had, that I knew that your team was going to be very like-minded with you, and that you guys were going to take me somewhere I had never been. I
Mm-hmm.
put a lot of time into the modules, a lot of reading, I really did it about full time for the whole 12 weeks that I was in
Mm-hmm.
the program. I was out of the country one week and felt like I was so disconnected when I got back. But I still listen to the modules
Yeah.
now. I listen to the meditations now. So I still go back to all of that, because I know that you can get disconnected again, and I don't ever want to do that.
Right.
But put the time in, trust the process, trust the people,
Mm-hmm.
and trust yourself. Trust yourself that you can listen and learn, and it'll happen.
Yeah. Yeah. Trust yourself. Isn't that something that a woman who's been sort of given maybe the short end of the stick for a while in her career, you and perhaps some others, that's sort of like the hardest thing to come by, isn't it? Sometimes to actually trust yourself a little bit, that you're going to be able to either come through it, or that there's actually a better scenario for you on the other side of a little bit of focus.
It was really hard when you think about the position that I was in, and how hard I hadn't worked specifically hard for that position. My career evolved very quickly, but it didn't evolve because there was no effort. There was so much effort, so many hours, and so much time,
Mm-hmm.
and it came to an abrupt ending like that. And so it was like I was at a crossroads, and I didn't know which way to go. But I learned that those things that were inside my head that made me uncomfortable when I showed up to work every day, that was my soul telling me you're not in the right place.
Yeah.
And now I never have that feeling. I
Yes.
work with clients that have all kinds of problems,
Yeah.
and I look at this and I think, this is crazy. You shouldn't be doing what you're doing. But I don't, and I help them fix their problem, but I never feel like I'm selling my soul like I
Yeah.
did before.
Yeah.
So to me, trust yourself that those feelings and intuitions are
Yeah.
there for a reason,
Mm-hmm.
and stop pushing them down. You're letting other people push you down, but you're also pushing your own self down by not
Yes.
listening.
That is so true. You're looking forward to next year. Um, what's the best
Hmm.
part right now of living the way you're living and thinking about next year? Like, what's the best part about that for you in living life this way, Wendy?
Um, I'm looking forward to seeing where my business goes.
Yeah.
One thing I've really understood is since I've been out of corporate world, I've met so many amazing people. Not people that have the same mindset as where I came from, but people who are open and loving and uh, curious, and they're learners, and they're not know-it-alls, right? they're
Yeah.
they're a
Yeah.
different position in a different position in life. Those are the people I like to hang with, people
Yeah.
that you can have discussions with and
Yeah.
philosophically and all of that, and
Hmm.
you don't have to fit in anybody else's mold. So i'm
Yeah.
looking i'm looking forward to meeting more people
Hmm.
and seeing where the consultancy goes from here,
Yeah. That's so good.
and
When
having a few lake parties.
there you go. Party at the lake with Wendy. That's
Hmm.
it's great when you're experiencing the world with positivity, generous people, lighthearted, soul based, whether they know it or not. If they're connected to their soul, you know it by how you feel around them. I'm delighted to see you smiling this big. I'm delighted to know that your business is going well. Just spending time with you and just again having that memory of that first conversation. It's just so great to see you where you are now and embracing life and embracing who you are. Dare we say, the world needs you, and I'm so glad that you are shining bright and you are able to be the talented, wonderful HR professional, advisor, consultant to companies who need your expertise. And it's just great to see you thriving like this. It's the world is better because
Thank
you
you.
have
Thank you.
shined up your soul. It's
Thank
really
you.
really fantastic. Anything else you want to say before we
Thank
wrap up?
you.
And thanks so much for sharing your story.
Just thank you for you and your team for uh, keeping telling me trust the process. It's going to work. Trust the process. And as I went through, when I got about 6 weeks in, I started to look back at the ladies that were just starting the process, and I could see
Yeah.
myself there.
Yeah.
And I thought, if I could just say, hang in there, hang in there,
Yeah.
just hang in there, make the investment. It's worth it. It's worth the time. It's worth the money. It's worth the risk. Just do it. Just do it.
Yeah. Thank you. Well, big hugs to you. Happy holidays,
Thank you.
and just really, I look forward to seeing you on our New Year kickoff, and helping you envision a great, big, bold, beautiful next year. So, thanks again for the interview, Wendy. Thanks
Thank
for
you.
trusting us, and really for shining in the world. It's really fantastic.
Thank you.
All right,
Thank you so
folks.
much, Bo.
You're welcome. Folks, if you would like to shine like Wendy and you're not feeling it and you know your soul is begging for some attention, please do consider booking that complimentary career clarity call. That's where it all gets started. Once you make that decision to spend an hour of time talking to an expert, one of my team members is going to help you really understand what's going on. And if we can help you, we'll talk about it. If we can help you, we'll usher you in another direction. So let's bring your soul back to life so you can bring it to work and land your dream job. This is Coach Mofall, mofall.com/talk to book that complimentary career clarity call. We'll see you next time. Thanks again, Wendy.